Hey, Anneli here from SwedishMadeEasy.com. Are you wondering which Swedish book is the best to use when you're learning Swedish? I'm going to take you through some of the course books that we use in our teaching in Swedish Made Easy and talk a little bit about the pros and cons of them. So one thing that many people are wondering about is which course book is best for learning Swedish. And there are many options out there, but I just wanted to show you a little bit about the books that we use when we teach at SwedishMadeEasy.com. And the first one that probably many of you have seen is this classic Rivstart. Rivstart is a book that we use a lot when we teach Swedish Made Easy, and it's a good book. The reason why it's a good book, in my personal opinion, I think, is because it takes you very clearly through the levels. So you have this book for A1, A2, you have another book for B1, B2, which I don't have right here at this moment, it's up in a different room. And then you also have quite a new book that only came out a couple of years ago, which is B2 to C1. Because actually the B1 to B2 doesn't cover the whole B2. So the publisher have then come out with another book that covers the rest of B2 and C1. They also actually have this book as well, which some of you may have seen, Rivstart Yrkesliv. This one is kind of B1 level, and it's a little bit smaller, if you can see here. And it doesn't take you through a level specifically, but it does have specific vocab for workplace, kind of more professional contexts, office environments and that kind of thing. So this one I've used a little bit in my teaching. It is good in the sense that it has specific vocab, but it doesn't have that much grammar in it, I would say. It doesn't have... Rivstart comes with an exercise book as well, and they have really, really good online exercises that you can do on their website if you sign up for a free profile. So that one, this one, Rivstart, the one that takes you through the levels, this is perfect to use if you are wanting to just build on the levels. This is a bit more of a book that you go in for specific workplace vocabulary, but it's quite generic still, I would say. I mean, it's just more about writing emails to your colleagues and that kind of thing, conversations in an office environment. So yeah, so that is a book that we use a lot. The cons with Rivstart, especially for this book, the con is that basically everything is in Swedish, okay? Everything is in Swedish, and this is a book for beginners. So even though you have the simplest of things in the beginning, just kind of like, hello, what's your name? Hej, vad heter du? Jag heter so and so. And you go through the most basics of grammar. All the explanations are in Swedish, which means that it's not a particularly good book to use if you're self-studying, because you have to translate everything. So it's not really that great if you're self-studying, especially not as a beginner. When you come up to level B1, B2, you might be okay with using it as a self-study book, because then your vocab has increased and you're kind of a bit more used to the type of instructions that you have in this book. But yes, for this one, as a beginner, I would not recommend using this book as a self-study book necessarily. So this works much better if you're studying together with the teacher, because then the teacher can take you through and explain the grammar and so on. So yeah, but otherwise it's a pretty good book and we use it a lot in our lessons. If you want to self-study specifically, and for whatever reason you don't want to study with a teacher, or you're not able to study with a teacher at the moment, then I would actually recommend my own book, which is Teach Yourself Complete Swedish. Now this book is specifically designed for people who are self-studying, and what it does is explaining everything, absolutely everything in terms of grammar. All the instructions are all in English. So that means that if you're an English speaker or if you speak pretty good English, then this is a great book for you if you're self-studying. It has vocabulary builders, it has grammar exercises and all those kinds of things. And you can also get the audio either through a website, and it has a link in the book. So you can use it through a browser, or you can go to the Teach Yourself Library app, download the app, it's free, and then you can get the audio from there. Sometimes we do teach from this book too, but it's great as a reference book, actually. So let's say that you are studying this book and you're a beginner, kind of A1, A2, you're studying that level, and maybe you have this book with a teacher, then this book can be really good as a reference book so that you can look into the grammar explanations and read them in English. The Teach Yourself book, this one that I wrote, that came out in 2018, and it's actually a completely newly written version of a book that existed before, which is this one. So this is the old one. So you might be able to see this one sometimes on Amazon or places like that, but this is the old version, and this one is completely new. So it doesn't have the same vocab in it. This one is a little bit older, I would say, and perhaps a little bit dated in terms of the vocab it uses. So this one is not just an updated version of that one. This one is written from scratch. It has the same name because it's the same series of books, but it's not an updated version of the old book. It's a new book, and it's completely different to the old book. What else do we have here? This is a book, I know it's changed, actually this is an old copy. It has changed the cover since I bought this one, but this is a great book, and if you ever wanted a verb book, a verb reference book, I would thoroughly recommend this one. It's great. It has over 2,000 verbs, and it has them laid out. Let me see if I can show you. Just in a table like this. Hopefully you can see this. So you've got the verb groups, you've got the verb in itself, you've got the English explanation of what it is, and you've got all the main 5 forms of the verb. And 2,000 verbs are actually quite a lot. And I would say that it even includes a few slang words. So it's definitely comprehensive. It's a great little book to have to look up verbs. Another favourite book that we use a lot in our teaching is this one, Form i Fokus. I have a copy of the C book here, but there's an A and a B as well. So it's Form i Fokus A, Form i Fokus B, Form i Fokus C. This is possibly one of the most sort of thorough grammar exercise books. Usually you can find a lot of grammar books, and they will explain the grammar and have a few example sentences. This bad boy has pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of exercises, which is really what you want when you're practicing grammar. I know they are called A, B and C, and some people think, okay, so A, does that mean that that's for level A1, A2, B is for B1, B2, but I would not necessarily agree with that. I would say that A actually has things that you cover in level B1 as well, so don't get hung up on that A corresponds to A1, A2. They just have 3 levels. And I would recommend anyone to buy the first one and do that one first, and then perhaps if you want to move forward, go to B and C. But I would say even if you're an intermediate learner, there's probably loads of things that you perhaps don't know or that you may have missed that are in the A book. So I thoroughly recommend getting that one first, and that is one that I always recommend to my students. Another book, and this is perhaps a bit more for the advanced learners, is a book about phrasal verbs, particular verb. This one is called Se upp, and it's a brilliant book, and it has so many different phrasal verbs, so many different ones. And it kind of lists, let me see if I can show you here as well. It sort of lists the verb, and then it has the prepositions kind of listed underneath. And then in Swedish, there's a definition of what it means. So it's a really good book. It's all in alphabetical order, so you get each verb like this, and then the different phrasal verbs that come out of that verb. Brilliant book, so rich. But it's all in Swedish, so I would say again, this is perhaps a book that suits more kind of B1 or even B2 and beyond. So if you're a bit more of an intermediate moving on to advanced, this is a great book. And I also wanted to mention another book that we use a lot with more advanced learners who want to expand their vocabulary in general. There is a book called Avancera ord, and this book is brilliant because it has, in each chapter, it has, I think it's about 25 words, and it's about 20 chapters or something like that. And it's verbs, it's adjectives, it's adverbs, it's prepositions, all sorts of words, but they are specifically chosen because they are difficult for people who don't come from Scandinavia or from Germany. So a lot of words that people tend to struggle with who don't have kind of a Germanic language as their native tongue. That one is brilliant too. And we use that one also quite a lot in our teaching with our more advanced students. So those are some of the books that we use regularly in our teaching. But which books do you use? Do you have any favourites that I have maybe not talked about? Write in the comments below any tips or any recommendations that you have. Which ones are your favourite books? And that's all for now. See you next time.